This is going to be awesome. Hi, I'm Dr. Leslie. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today, we're gonna do Hakka Zhar Yoke, possibly one of the most delicious pork dishes ever created. No kidding. So to make this dish, we need to start with some pork belly. I'm using Japanese, this is Kumamoto Pork Belly. When you buy Japanese pork belly, right, it does tend to be a little bit more fatty. If you buy it online, you can't really get to choose. But if you go to the supermarket, you can pick those with the right amount of fat to meat ratio that you like. When the Japanese eat pork, they actually like to eat the fat. They grow their pig so that the fat is nice and sweet and very mildly flavored. They don't have that porkiness to it. So the best way actually to eat it is to slice it thin and have it as shabu-shabu. You can really taste the sweetness of the pork that way. But today, because I wanted to show you how to make Hakka Zhar Yoke, I tell you, this is a dish that after I fry it, right, and I cut it, right, you take the first piece, then you take the second piece, and by the time you serve it to your family, like half of it is gone. Okay, it really happens to me. So I really love the flavor of this dish I'm going to share with you. I want to acknowledge that the recipe is actually from Auntie Ruby from Food Canon, but I modified it a little bit. To make the marinade, we need this thing called namyi, or red fermented bean curd. This is possibly the most important part of the marinade because this gives it that it's got a lot of umami in it, and then it's got red yeast as well to give it that red color. I'm going to put 3 pieces of this namyi into a bowl. I'm going to add all the rest of the ingredients. This is Chinese wine, sesame oil, some dark soy sauce. This is more for the color than anything else. This is 5 spice powder, salt, and sugar. So all the ingredients, the amount of ingredients will be in the recipe link below. So we're going to break up this namyi. Almost forgot garlic. Add in the garlic. Garlic is the other essential ingredient. So the garlic and the namyi together, and then when you deep fry it, it's amazing. You can even smell it now. Once all the ingredient is already mixed, we crack 1 egg. Okay, the egg will help give it a bit of binding power. When you put the flour onto the pork, the egg is going to help bind it all together. Okay, so this amount of marinade is actually good for 1 kilogram of pork. This is much less than 1 kilogram. So you can keep it aside for your next recipe, or my advice, buy 1 kilogram of pork. Really. Especially if you're doing this for Chinese New Year, sure not enough one. Brings out that lovely umami yumminess of the pork. I'm just going to put enough to cover. So the pork is marinated. Now all you need to do is to marinate it overnight. The next day, your pork is ready. For the batter, I'm going to use plain flour mixed with something new. Okay, this is a new thing that I'm using. You look at this flour, it's a little bit grainy, right? But it's still very light. This is Taiwanese tapioca flour. This is what they use for frying those very crispy Shiling chicken chop, you know. I find that using this flour gives the crust that extra crispiness. So with this, I'm using 1 part plain flour to 1 part of the tapioca flour. If you can't find the tapioca flour, then you can use 2 parts plain flour, 1 part rice flour, and 1 part potato flour. The mixture will give it a nice, really crispy crust. Okay, mix it nicely. We're going to take our pork. So after we covered it with the flour, what you need to do is to let it rest for maybe 5 or 10 minutes so that the flour can really just soak up all that marinade. It's important that you wait for the flour to turn from white to sort of like a pinkish color. So now you just leave it aside. You see it's all white now. So after a while, the flour will soak up all the marinade, it will turn a little bit brown. That's when we fry. So as you can see, after 5 to 10 minutes, all the marinade has soaked through. We're going to fry in 2 stages. The first stage of frying is at low heat. The advantage of frying at low heat is that we can actually let the fat render slowly. When you put the pork in, you want to put it away from you, like that, so that you don't get oil splatter all over you. So when you fry, you just want a little bit of bubbles. I'm frying it very low, around 120. You keep it on a low fire. Fry it on maybe about 5 to 10 minutes. You want to slowly cook the pork in the first stage, because if you cook it too fast, the fat will become very chewy. If you cook it at low heat, the fat will have more chance to slowly soften and render. So you'll get rid of some of the excess fat, and then the remaining fat is going to be really nice and soft. Whereas the crust is nice and really crunchy. So it's been going for about 6 minutes. I think it's almost done. I'm just going to lift it out and take it out. Okay, so now we're going to heat the oil up to 190 degrees, and we'll put the pork in for maybe less than a minute, and that will really crisp it right up. So when the pork has got a bit of time to rest, you get rid of all the excess water vapor. Put it in carefully. And you see the difference in the amount of bubbles, right? When you have bubbles like this, means there's still a lot of water that's coming out. Okay, when you see the bubbles start to disappear, that's when the water vapor is all out already. That's when your pork is really crisp. It doesn't take very long. So we're going to get rid of some of this oil. I'm going to turn some of the oil into scallion oil. So all you need to do is get a handful of scallions and fry it. Just low heat, just let it brown. So when the scallion turns about this kind of color, you can smell the beautiful aroma. Basically done. So now we're going to cook the noodles. This is a Mian that you can get from the supermarket quite easily. Now of course you can use any noodle that you want, but I like Mian because of the texture. I feel that the texture of the Mian, chewy, sort of like toothy texture, really goes well with the crispy pork. Okay, just going to remove the Mian. Just going to quickly run it under cold water to stop the cooking. So let's construct our noodles, right? These are just nicely cooked. Put some of the scallion oil. Okay, remember this scallion oil has got the flavor of the pork on it as well. And then just some soy sauce. You don't need too much soy sauce because basically the pork is already very flavorful. You just want a very simple noodle dish. Get some of the pork. Got a nice. Okay, some greens. Always must eat your greens, okay? Very important. And there you go. That's my Hakka Zhar Yoke with Mian noodles, made with Japanese pork belly. Now for the moment of truth. Look at that. And that noodle, so nice and QQ and toothy with the crispy crunch of the pork. This is going to be awesome. It really is one of the most tasty pork dishes ever created. It's super addictive. Okay, you gotta try this recipe. It's a great recipe, goes really well with the noodles. If you're interested to buy the Japanese pork, there are 400 brands in the market, different styles of pork, from free range to kurobuta to normal shirobuta pork. Please check out the link below. Until next time, happy cooking!